right, so let's talk about the opposition rub between, although I'm going to say that noting that there actually shouldn't be, and I'm going to try to provide an example about as to why I think it's not actually like this, even though it feels like this. The opposition or rub between trying to get the horse to stay connected and feel good about things, and also keeping that horse from being too pushy, specifically in this case. Or I'm going to even rephrase it, because it's not just pushiness, it's helping that horse let go of their thought. And theoretically, the more connection I build, the easier it's going to be to let go of their thoughts. So actually, as I say this, maybe one of the things that I'm missing, maybe the thing I'm missing is the connection. Maybe that needs to get deeper. So I've been thinking about this a lot, because one of my big lessons with Wyatt in the last couple years has been that when I get firm and clear with him, all of a sudden he comes through a thing, he might get worried for a minute, and then he feels way better on the other side. And the more times that happened, the better he felt, to the point now where I don't have to get quite as firm. I can do a lot less than I used to have to. Even the other day I was doing something. He got pretty upset the other day. I can't even remember. Oh, it was the dog. He just kind of came out with a funny feeling in him. And I actually didn't get that firm to get I was clear, but I didn't have to get too big to get a change in the horse. Now he had to have in this case, he had a little meltdown that he hasn't had in quite a while, like months. But I was like, oh, there's that part of you, that defiant willfulness in him. Not even that. It was just like I don't even know that it was defiance. It was just like he threw in the towel for a minute, and he wouldn't have done. The thing was he didn't want to run around. He didn't want to move forward. He didn't want to stand still. So what do you do with that? Fuck if I know. I try not to buy into the drama is one of the things, which actually was really effective the other day. But if I'm gonna just pretend that didn't happen, I can say, well, that horse really a couple years ago, I finally had to get, and I remember what day it was. I got really big. He was rearing, and he was being kind of dangerous, honestly. And there's only been a few times on the ground where I felt like he was really, he wasn't trying to threaten me, but I certainly could have gotten hurt. And I guess a little part of me lost my temper, but I just got big. It was almost a self-preservation thing. And really, I just needed his attention in that moment. It wasn't so much from a temper type of place. It was me needing his attention. And that horse has not been the same since that day. And I built and built and built on that for the last 2 years. In the last couple of weeks, I've had some great sessions with him. Not that he isn't still all the things that he is, like that's inside of him, but I can also get so much more out of him. And I've been working on something in the last 2 weeks that I've been working on for years, and I changed the way I'm doing it after I went to this clinic, and it's crazy how much more effective that's been. So I really think that I have a stronger connection with him as a result of having firmed up in these places, and he's less worried. And when he gets connected to me, he's not so worried about all the other stuff. Like he's had some pretty big feels in the last couple weeks about outside things, and then he almost completely disappeared. And I've had some sessions where there was some stuff going on outside the round pen, and he was just so with me that it didn't really matter what else was going on. Not to say that I wouldn't lose him as soon as I went further away from the comfort zone, but I can go further and further away from the comfort zone than ever before. So that's good. And I have to remember that's taken a long time to get him there. But I've been thinking about this more because of Zoe. Although it's funny because both my horses are in such different places. Because I feel really connected to Wyatt and not very connected to Zoe. So and you'd almost think given their history, it might not be what you expect. But I do think that Wyatt and he probably has a better relationship with me than he's ever had with with a human. So he probably, if he had to pick a human to go through his life with, he's going to pick me, because I probably caused the least amount of trouble for him of everybody that he's ever really met. So anyway, whereas Zoe is in a lot different place and her background's a lot different, and she's clearly carried a lot of, the things that Julie said something to me on the last day of the clinic where she said, that's in her too, because we got the mare a little bit worried, and then she wanted to flee, and you were like, oh, that's different. That was a lot different than how she felt the first couple days. But we were also trying to get her to keep track of me a little bit better. See, this is where I got to reframe my thinking about it, because I was thinking about it as not letting her push into me. But I think the more I stew on it the last 2 weeks, the more I think, this is really not an issue of her pushing into me as much as she doesn't keep very good track of me, and I'm not very important to her. So I got to find ways to become more important to Zoe, and I can guarantee you it's not going to... I bribed Wyatt through a few things because he has some baggage that comes with him that maybe a cookie might make him feel just a little bit less worried about a thing, where that just kind of opens him up. And Wyatt also doesn't cuddle mug you or mug you for food, so you can get away with that. Well, Zoe will knock you down if she thinks she has food. And if I carry a cookie in my pocket, I'm opening myself up to trouble. So I don't really want her feeling that way about food, because she's got to get fed 2 and 3 times a day for the rest of her life. She can't be mugging people every time that happens. And she's just the type of horse that will walk right up and push other horses out of the way for the food pile, which I've been thinking of. I know I made a video about their energy too, and matching their energy. That is what she carries with her. That spot at the food dish is the same spot in all the other places. That is what she carries with her everywhere she goes. That is the way she was made, and the last year and a half of her life have allowed her to carry that with her. And all of a sudden here I am to say, no, not gonna work anymore, kid. That's probably not, for her, that's not really making a very big connection. And I think that maybe she's feeling sometimes like I'm being a little bit unfair. Although even in the last 2 days, I've already improved my game, because she carries this with her, and she's much different than Wyatt in that what she carries with her is a boldness and a self-assuredness that she has the right answer already. She's a pretty clever horse, so you can see how she's pushy enough and actually clever enough and smart enough. You could see how she's arrived at all of these conclusions in her mind. She's young, hasn't had bad experiences. She's just like a little kid that a little like the dog behind me, and except actually I think maybe Angus is not quite as bold as she is. She's very self-assured. Angus is self-assured, but only to a point. Zoe's very self-assured. It takes not that she can't have a meltdown, but even in a situation where an adult horse might have totally lose its mind, Zoe's more likely to have a tantrum for a few minutes and then just kind of go back to whatever it was she was doing before. Or if it's really something that ate at her, she might work at that for a bit. But that some of that's just her age, because if she does get too high into the her energy level gets too up, she gets too stirred up, then she can really unload. Hence the kicking and the some of the fleeing. But like Julie said, this is what's in her. She is a smart horse that can concentrate really, really hard for a 1.5 years old. She's clever. She's not as busy-minded as Wyatt used to be. And the thing is Wyatt is nowhere near as busy-minded as he used to be. I mean, that horse used to have no still spot. Zoe has a still spot inside of her to balance it out. But she's also pretty athletic for a little kid. Was watching her trot and canter around the round pen the other day, and I was like, fuck, this horse, she's 1.5 inches higher in her butt end, and she's actually still kind of moving uphill. Her trot and her canter both, they're not uphill, but she wants to be uphill. She's a pretty athletic little creature, and so she's got that inside of her, that boldness and that self-assuredness, and that she's convinced that she already had the right answer, because that's what worked out for the first 1.5 years of her life. So it's going to take a while to get through all of that. And I think what I've been struggling with the last 2 weeks is that I don't feel like I'm ruining her, but I do feel like a little bit of a less of a connection, and that she's a little bit harder than Wyatt. If I got really clear with Wyatt, eventually he's going to get to a place where he feels like I made him feel better a lot quicker than Zoe. Probably part of it is that most of the things that I'm trying to get Wyatt to stop doing are anxiety driven. He doesn't feel, so when he does find that place of peace, he's like, April firmed up and then I felt better because I helped him get to a place of peace. Whereas Zoe's not worried. She just wants to carry out her idea. And, she had the best idea in her mind already. And why in hell would I take her best idea away from her? So she has to go through a different spot to come to a different end because she started in a different place. So I've just really been thinking about, I don't have the answer. I know somewhere in there it involves connection, and it involves going about things in a way where she can get firmness and clarity that build the least amount of resentment. Because that's one of the things, is that she's gonna develop some resentment here, because she's not getting, she can't be allowed to do some of the things that she would like to do. So she might end up with a little bit of resentment about that, which I don't love. And so I guess there's just I've got to believe that she's going to get through that one day, and that she won't carry that resentment with her for her entire life. But there's got to be some things that I could do more to help her stay out of that resentment zone. I'm not sure what they are. And I'm thinking about this extra hard, I think, because this week is going to be the first wintry week we've really had. We had a couple weeks where it rained a little bit, but it never rained for more than a day or two at a time, and it was not so hard to get through. I think because of, one, where she's been at the last couple weeks, which has been a tough spot, and a little bit of a roller coaster, and two, just because this week could probably be a tough week, because I think it's going to be, the news is saying that this is going to be the biggest storm we have all year. So it's probably bad timing in that case. But I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my hardest. I'm going to try. I think something that I got to work on, it probably is true that sometimes I tend to do things at her instead of with her. And I probably need to work on that. I'm not really sure. And that probably makes her feel a little bit more resentment. I also, I'm thinking about the food thing, and I probably am flagging her off. That kind of is at her when I'm flagging her off the food. And I'm not 100% sure how to describe to myself or how to accomplish what I think I need to accomplish any other way other than driving her away. Because I do think it's important that she get to a point where she's not so bossy about the food, and she's not so aggressive, because I suspect that the two big keys for this horse, and they're interrelated, are going to be getting her to where she can yield that shoulder and feel good about it, and to where that pushy place in her about the food is the same pushy place as in all the other places. So I gotta get her to where she's letting go of that and not feeling resentful and annoyed about it. I'm just not quite sure how to do all of that, so it's kind of my task, and I might need a phone call to Julie. Maybe I should because I do feel like day 2 went better than day 1, so maybe I should call Julie, though. If she has time, I should look up her schedule. I don't know, we'll find out. I'm headed to the barn right now, so we'll see how today goes. Hopefully it's not a disaster.